We started talking about how the Hasidic movement used Kabbalistic ideas, physical ideas. I want to take you through a discourse, Hasidic discourse, from Rabbi Tzadik, show you how this is done in a systematic way to clarify, as we said last time, clarify things that are on the surface, things that everybody knows, but to get a much greater depth of understanding. Tzaddik HaKohen, who died in 1900, so he's, I don't know how you count the generations, fifth, sixth generation of the Hasidic movement, quite late, was not born to a Hasidic family, and he received a standard yeshiva education. And then as a young man, he had occasion to travel all over Europe and meet Rabbanim. He was going after Heter Mei Rabbanim, if you know what that is. And he came into contact with Hasidic greats, and he was influenced to the point where he became an outstanding member of the Hasidic movement. But he had the input of a standard non-Hasidic education. His knowledge was very, very broad, and he very brilliant and insightful, and he had this vision, a broad-angled vision of bringing together sources of different kinds to bear on a particular subject, which makes reading him very difficult because all he does is quote, and if you don't know the vocabulary and the methodology of the different sources, it could be psukim, it could be midrashim, it could be gemaras, it could be zohars, could be Rambams, and he just brings them, that's all. And you're supposed to instantly read and understand what he's saying, and then he puts them together in a pattern, and he explains the pattern to you. It's quite difficult. When I asked my Rabbi Zatzal for permission to learn Chassidus, he said, learn Rabbi Tzadik. Well, of course, I'm a philosopher, so he knew right away that this type of thinking would appeal to me. But it's very difficult. Even today, I find some of them are very difficult. But he's definitely a classical Hasidic source. Now, in the Cedar, when we have the prayers for the Sabbath, the prayer ends with the words, Baruch atah Hashem, Mekadesh HaShabbos. Blessed be Hashem who sanctifies the Sabbath. On holidays, it ends with Baruch atah Hashem, Mekadesh Yisrael v'Azmanim, sanctifies Yisrael and the times, meaning the holiday times. So the obvious question is, why is Yisrael mentioned vis-a-vis the holidays and not mentioned vis-a-vis Shabbos? And in particular, if you happen to have a holiday that comes out on Shabbos, then you combine them, and you combine them in the order Mekadesh HaShabbos for Yisrael v'Azmanim. So he's starting with a piece of the prayer book, and the assumption is that when Chazal wrote these things, they meant to convey something about the essence of Shabbos, the essence of the holidays. So, on the first level, there's a classical historical difference between Shabbos and the holidays, because Shabbos was established at the creation of the world. Kadosh Baruch Hu, b'chvodo v'atzmo, he himself established Shabbos, and the weeks march on from that time automatically. You don't have to do anything to make it happen, with no input in making it happen. It's just a question of relating to it. Kviya v'kaima. It was established and it continues on its own, coming from heaven. The holidays aren't like that. In a simple sense, the holiday is defined by the date of the month. The date of the month is something which the Bezdin, the human court, establishes. And it's a little beyond the ordinary. You probably are thinking that, well, sure, the Bezdin establishes it, but then you have the moon goes through its phases. Some two people see the new moon, and they come to the court, they give their testimony, and that's how the month is started. yeah, they come to the court and give their testimony, but it's really because they saw the astronomical event of the new moon. But that's wrong. That's wrong. First of all, it's machlokes rishonim whether the testimony is really what the new moon is based on. But even those who say that ordinarily it is within the power of Beis Din to establish the month independently of the witnesses. In other words, the witnesses can come and the Beis Din can say, it was nice to see you and we're very interested in your astronomical observations, but we're making it tomorrow. We're not making it today. We're just not doing that. We have reasons to be not convenient, and we're not doing it. Or, if no witnesses come, they could say, today is Rosh Chodesh, without witnesses. So it means that it's the court that establishes the new moon, the beginning of the month. And if the court establishes when the month begins, and let's say Pesach is the 15th day of Nisan, then which 24-hour period of history will be the 15th day of Nisan, which will have the holiness of the holiday, is something that the court creates. The court makes it so. If the court makes Rosh Chodesh on Monday, it'll be 2 weeks later on Monday. If the court makes it on Tuesday, then it'll be 2 weeks later on Tuesday. So the court brings about the holiness of the holiday. That, in and of itself, is enough to say, when you're talking about the holiday, Mekadesh Yisrael v'Hazmanim, the way in which the holiday gets its holiness is through the Jewish people, and of course, Jewish people has to be stamped with divine holiness, otherwise they wouldn't be able to do it. Yeah.
I had another story when we're learning about Shabbos, how it's like 6 days of the week, every day is paired with another, and Shabbos is paired with the Jewish people. So it's kind of what the Rabbi was saying.
So I'm coming to that. Now let's take the combined formula. When Shabbos comes out on a holiday, it's Baruch Makadosh Shabbos v'Yisrael v'Hazmanim. Okay, so when we look at 2 and 3, we say, Makadosh Yisrael v'Hazmanim, because it's through the Kedusha of the Jewish people that they have the power to set the Kedusha of the holiday. Okay, when they're combined, Shabbos comes first. And then what they want to say is similar to what you said. It's through the Kedusha of Shabbos that the Jewish people gets its Kedusha, and through the Kedusha of the Jewish people that the holiday gets its Kedusha. So it's a chain. Wow. Shabbos makes the Jewish people, and Shabbos people make it. This is Hasidic thinking. How does it work? What's the agency? What's the mechanism? What's the explanation? Okay. Now, having said that, there's a famous verse which causes a lot of difficulty in the Gemara, and that is when you start counting Sfira, you're counting the days between Pesach and Shavuos. The pasuk says you should start counting Mimocharas HaShabbos, from the day after the Shabbos. Gee, does that mean you should start counting those 49 days on Sunday? Mimocharas HaShabbos, the day after the Shabbos. But in fact, it's not true. The word HaShabbos there refers to the first day of Pesach. Because on the first day of Pesach, there is a prohibition against doing a great many of the forbidden Shabbos activities, not all, but a great many. The word Shabbos, by the way, what does the word Shabbos mean in Hebrew?
Rest.
No, it does not.
Or to cease?
Yes. Listen, he knows. To cease, it means to stop doing something. In modern Hebrew, when workers call it strike, they call it a shvita. Now you could question that because that would sort of imply that they were working before, and now they're just stopping working. Maybe that's a little bit of exaggeration, but that's the idea. The idea is that shvita is cessation. So the word Shabbos can apply to the holidays because there too is a cessation of the range of normal activities. It's not as severe a cessation as you have on Shabbos Kodesh. So the Gemara says it means the day after the first day of Pesach, and the whole discussion because the Tzukim didn't agree, and they argued back and forth, and were proofs one way and one the other. Okay, but here you are, faithful Jews, and the Gemara proves it. It's talking about the first day of Pesach. The question is, why did the Torah call the first day of Pesach Shabbos in this context? Why do that? Didn't have to do that, because in Moed. The context before is the laws of the korbanos of Pesach, and because we would know what it was talking about. Why do it this way? So Tzadik wants to say, he says that holidays divide. There are holidays, and then there are Shabbosdik holidays. Some holidays are more Shabbosdik than others. Some holidays partake of the character of Shabbos more than others do. And what this pasuk means to tell you is that the first day of Pesach partakes of Shabbos character more than other holidays. So that's what we need to spell out in some detail, which is what he does. And in order to spell that out, we need now to take another step in describing the difference between Shabbos on the one hand and the holidays on the other hand. We talked about how the time is established. Now let's talk about the character of the day. Almost all the holidays have special mitzvahs which define the character of the day. The first day of Pesach has all of the mitzvahs of the Cedar, in the evening, nighttime. For the rest of Pesach, there's a prohibition against eating chametz. There is, in some sense, a positive performance of eating matzah. Rosh Hashanah has shofar. Yom Kippur has the fast and tshuva. Sukkot has living in the sukkah and using the lulav and esrog, the 7 days of Sukkot. These holidays have special performances that define the character of the day, which again means that the Jewish people is giving the day its character by the mitzvahs that it's doing. Shabbos doesn't have that. The only positive mitzvah of Shabbos is Kiddush, which, if you're a real aficionado, takes about 22 seconds. And you gulp down the wine, and that's it. It's over. And the rest of the 24 hours of Shabbos has no positive mitzvah, which is Shabbosdik. There are lots of other mitzvahs that you do every day. You say the Shema, and you daven, and you bench on meals, but there's no positive Shabbosdik mitzvah. So if you ask, where does Shabbos get its character from? The answer is not like the holidays, which get their character from the mitzvahs that we do. Where does Shabbos get its character from? So I told this to some of you once. There's a wonderful Chassidus Torah Tmima. And if you know who the Torah Tmima was, you say he wasn't a Chassid, you're wrong. He was a Chassid. If he said this word that I'm going to tell you, you'll know right away he's a Chassid. The idea that Shabbos has simcha associated with it, which all the Zmiros express, is an idea that should be questioned. There's no mitzvah of simcha on Shabbos. Mitzvah of oneg, but not simcha. Porosuk says, "V'samachta b'chagecha." There's a mitzvah of simcha on the holidays. Dovid HaMelech said, "If there was Hashem b'simcha, whenever you serve the Kodesh Baruch Hu, any kind of service, any day of the year should be done with simcha. But at Shabbos, as a time, there's no mitzvah of Shabbos, of simcha on Shabbos." So what are the Zmiros talking about? So the Torah Tamima explains as follows. There is a pasuk, and this is something you can use as a quiz now, for your friends who wear double-lined black velvet yarmulkes. Where is there a pasuk in the Torah that attaches simcha to Shabbos? And to get this right, you need to know not only the pasuk, but you need to know the Chazal. Well, there's a mitzvah to make trumpets, silver trumpets. And the Torah says there are certain occasions on which you blow it. And the pasuk says, "V'yom simchaschem, uv'modeichem, uv'roshei chadshechem." Blow the trumpets on the day of your simcha, and on the holidays, and on the beginning of each month, Rosh Chodesh. Let's see, progression. Q, and then holidays, and then Rosh Chodesh. What could Q be? The 4th of July? What's higher than, in the order of Q, and then holidays, and then Rosh Chodesh? Obviously, the thing that's higher is Shabbos. The Chazal say, Elu Shabbosos. These are Shabbosos. Sorry? Sure you can. First of all, I didn't say shofar. I said chatzos. Right? I said trumpets, right? But that's a derabanan only because you might carry it. Here's in the mikdash. There are no derabanans in the mikdash. No derabanans in the mikdash on Shabbos. Right? Shvus mikdash. So the pasuk is saying Yom Simchaschem, and Chazal identified this, but it's pretty clear in the pasuk that it's Shabbos. Yom Simchaschem. So the question is, if there's no mitzvah of Simcha on Shabbos, so what do you mean it's there? How does it get to be there? What's its status there? And the Torah T'mima on that pasuk says there's Simcha L'Ma'ala, because the Medrash tells us that when Kodesh Baruch Hu finished creating the world and on Shabbos ceased that creative endeavor, it was like a king who built a palace, and when it was finished, he made a celebration. So there's a celebration L'Ma'ala, above. A Jew whose neshama is in tune with what's going on above naturally feels simcha on Shabbos. That's what the Torah T'mima says. The Tzadik, who lived, I think, before the Torah T'mima, actually, Torah T'mima lived into the 20th century, he expresses the same idea. He says that the attitude of the Jew on Shabbos is receptive, whereas the attitude of the Jew on the holidays is creative. On the other holidays, there are mitzvahs to do, and by doing them, you give the day its character. For the aficionados, yes, I left out two, and I'll come back and talk about them if we have time. If not, I'll do it tomorrow. There are mitzvahs for you to do, and the mitzvahs that you do give the day its character. On Shabbos, you don't create the character of the day. The character of the day is created above, just like its position in the calendar is created above, so its character is created above. Your job is to be receptive. Now, time for a footnote. Don't confuse creative and receptive on the one hand with active and passive on the other hand. That's a mistake. A person who's receptive is not passive. He's aware. His attention is focused. He sometimes has to prepare himself to absorb the experience that he's going to undergo. He's just not making something happen. He's absorbing what's happening outside of him. This distinction is very, very crucial in many areas. Something called Isus de Lasata, I'm saying that for the aficionados, and that follows this rule as well. It's one of the things I heard from my oldest son many years ago. So now, the second difference is that the Kodesh Baruch Hu gives the day its character, including the simcha on the day, whereas we create the character of the day, of the other holidays by performing the mitzvahs that give the day its character. Okay, now, let's think about the mitzvahs of Pesach. In particular, let's think about the mitzvahs of the first day of Pesach. So really, there are four. There are three that are associated with there are four mitzvahs which are associated with the Cedar. And they are, this is the order that is used in the Mishnah, Pesach, matzah, moror. Those are the three things that you eat. The Paschal sacrifice, matzah, and the bitter herbs. And telling the story. Vigarat levincha. 4 biblical mitzvahs, which are characteristic of that day. So the Tzadik asks, why are they in that order? Why is it Pesach, matzah, and moror? If you think about it, if you think of the symbolism of these mitzvahs, you think about it chronologically, which one ought to be first? Well, the moror symbolizes the bitterness of the slavery. That certainly should be first. You might put matzah together with it, But matzah, according to the Haggadah, refers to what they ate after they left Egypt. So, and that's a pasuk. There's a specific pasuk that the night after they left Egypt, the night of the 16th of Nisan, after they left Egypt, they ate matzah again, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu engineered it that way. So really, the Morah ought to come first. Pesach refers to the event of the night of the 15th, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu engineered the deaths of the Egyptians. And matzah refers to something that happened on the 16th, when they ate matzah after they left. So really, it ought to be Moror, Pesach, and matzah. Why is Pesach first? And then there's a Mishnah, Mishnah Psachim. Mishnah says, what is the difference between the korban Pesach, paschal sacrifice they offered in Egypt, versus the paschal sacrifice all the years after that? And the Mishnah says that the paschal sacrifice that they offered in Egypt was eaten for one night, and the paschal sacrifice that they offered all the years later than that was eaten for 7 days. What? The Gemara says, what? Come on. Paschal sacrifice wasn't eaten for 7 days. Never, ever. It was only eaten the night of Tesvav, and Rabbi Dovid Azeris says only till midnight, and the Chachamim say till the morning. Never, ever was a Paschal sacrifice eaten for 7 days. Ever. There was never having of them, never a discussion of such a thing. So Gemara says, you're right. What we mean is that the prohibition of eating of chametz is for 7 days. That's what we mean. That's what we mean. So the clever reader says, oh, that's what you meant? So why didn't you say so? Tell me that. What do you mean? The Paschal sacrifice is eaten for 7 days. And he said, no, it isn't. Can't be. It's crazy. Right? No, we mean, what's going on?
Welcome to learning Gemara.
Right. Welcome to learning Gemara. There's a whole joke about this, why you have to have a Jewish cup to learn Gemara. Okay. So the now comes the Hasidic part. So he says, what is not eating chametz? What is chametz? Chametz is the Yetzer Hara, it's the evil inclination. Chametz is gashmius. Chametz is the connection to the physical world. If I have time, I'll explain that in more detail. The Jew renouncing chametz, giving it up, eating matzah, is taking a giant spiritual step up. We have to ask, how is he able to do that? What gives him the ability to do that? The answer is that the Pesach gives him the ability to do it, because the Korban Pesach is what embodies what a Kodesh Baruch Hu did that night. He arranged the Egyptian death and our survival. I say arranged because there are a lot of wrong ideas about how this happened, or wrong, certainly controversial ideas, and I don't want to go into that machlokes at the moment. That's what he did. Now we have to ask, he did for us. He killed the Egyptian firstborn, and he arranged that our firstborn shouldn't be killed. Did we deserve that? Did we earn that? Were we worthy of that? Chazal are very clear that the answer to those questions is no, because they record that the angels said to Kodesh Baruch Hu, Halalu of the and Halalu of the These serve idols and those serve idols. Why are you killing these and saving those? Which means that if we're looking at us, our performance and our merit, we certainly did not deserve it. No, Kodesh Baruch Hu did it without our deserving it. Okay, that, says the Tzadik, is the yesod. It's the foundation of Pesach. You have to know that it was done to you and for you without your deserving it. You didn't initiate it. You didn't create it. It was done to you and for you. Now, says the Tzadik, What the Mishnah is telling you is your ability to refrain from chametz and to eat matzah, which you are doing. This you definitely are doing. That comes from a Kodesh Baruch who's doing the Pesach. He created your ability to do that. He infused that in you. On your own, you would never have been able to do it. Halal of avodah zarah, halal of avodah zarah. The idol worshipping stamp was still on you. If he had not gifted you with that at that moment, as his promise to the patriarchs, he made a promise that he would save us from Egypt. If he hadn't gifted us, we wouldn't have been able to do it. Okay, now maybe already you could see where I'm going. So, are there distinctive mitzvahs that apply to Pesach, which give it its character? Yes. Yes, there are. There are distinctive mitzvahs. Who's doing them? We're doing them. How are we doing them? Why are we doing them? Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us a stamp on his own, free of charge, without earning it, which enables us to do them. So, do you see the Shabbos character creeping in here to the foundation of Pesach? Pesach is a Shabbos Dika Yom Tov. It has distinctive mitzvos, but our ability to do those distinctive mitzvahs comes only from a free gift that Hakadosh Baruch Hu lifted us up to a certain level where we were able to do that. And the rest of the days we're carrying out that free gift that He gave us. So it's really a Shabbos Dika Yom Tov. This is absolutely amazing to me, in my mind. It's an amazing analysis. That's what the Mishnah is hinting at. Now you see like how you learn a Mishnah. From a Hasidic point of view, what else are you going to do? The Mishnah is very hard to understand. You know, the Pesach is eaten, and for future generations, it's eaten for 7 days. It's nonsensical. No, it means the Issach Chametz. And by the way, the Issach Chametz, the prohibition against Chametz, and when they left Egypt was only 1 day. It was only 1 day. It wasn't 7 days. And when I said one night, it really says one day. That's I didn't get to that yet. It says the Pesach Mitzrayim is Nechal Yom Echad, and Pesach Doro is Nechal Shiva Yomim. Right? So the Mishnah is waving the flag about this. So it's telling you that it is a Shabbos Dika Yom Tov, and now you have an explanation for the pasuk which says, "Start counting Sfira Mimochar Shabbos," and Mimochar Shabbos means the day after the first day of Pesach, because the word HaShabbos here can refer to the first day of Pesach, not only because the word Shabbos means cessation, and there is a cessation of most of the Shabbos activities on holidays, most of them are forbidden, but not only because of that, but because of the positive side of Pesach. The positive side of Pesach has a Shabbos Dika character, which the other holidays don't have. Together so far? Okay, so now this leads to a division of the holidays. This is just the beginning of a template, the beginning, which again the Tzadik says that the holidays divide in the calendar spring and early summer. That's Purim, Pesach, and Shavuos is one group, and on the other end of the calendar, you have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Hanukkah. That's the other group. And what differentiates them, lots of things differentiate them, but one thing that differentiates them is, where is the initiation of interaction with the Kodesh Baruch Hu? This is what's called in Aramaic, Isusa L'Sata. Does the Kodesh Baruch Hu initiate the contact? Or do we initiate the contact? Now, I'm just going to put a footnote. If you take the ones where we initiate the contact, it isn't purely initiation from our side. We didn't create the world, so there's got to be some input that's coming from Kodesh Baruch Hu. But relatively speaking, where's the major initiation of the action? And the way the Tzadik describes it is Purim, Pesach, and Shavuos. the major initiation comes from above. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Chanukah, the major initiation comes from below. Here, just to ask, say your intuition, which do you think is more complete, more ideal? Initiation from above or initiation from below?
Below.
Good for you, that's right. Initiation from below. We present ourselves as desiring closeness, desiring that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give to us, and then He gives to us. That's the most complete, which means that really that's in the fall and winter. And here, it's not so. Let me show you how the consistency works. Again, this is all in the Tzadik. Purim. What happened on Purim? There was the decree that we should be destroyed. Was that decree just? You bet. Our failure was gigantic. And the only thing, and how do we respond to it? Well, the failure was there before the decree. And we had prophets throughout the temple period, and in the exile in Babylonia, which is where the miracle of Purim took place, in the exile in Babylonia. And the prophets warned us and exhorted us to improve, and didn't work, didn't help. Azeris et Abbas, like the Gemara says, when Achashverosh took off his ring and gave it to Haman and said, do with him whatever you please. Oh, that woke us up all right. You know, every man, woman, and child is going to be annihilated. That woke us up. Then we were really, we got on board. But look what it took. That's Isserus de Le'ela. That's an input from above. Baruch says, I pleaded with you, I warned you, now I'm going to frighten you to death. Maybe that will get your attention. And of course it did, and that's how it happened. So that's Purim. Pesach is taking us out of Mitzrayim when halol avodah zarah and halol avodah zarah, and we really didn't deserve it. Shavuos is the upshot of Pesach. You count the 40 days in between. It's the 50th day, so that means it forms one axis, the axis of starting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's input. Rosh Hashanah and Kippur are not like that. Let's take Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is Yom Hadin. There's a mitzvah of shofar on Rosh Hashanah. What do? We start blowing the shofar at the beginning of Elul. We don't wait for Rosh Hashanah to come. No. We start early. When you have the description of how the shofar does what it does, however, blowing the shofar is supposed to bring from a Yom Adin, a day of strict judgment, to mercy. The Ramchal and the Derech Hashem has a long description of the metaphysics of how it works, and at the end he has two words, Ima Tshuva. This is not playing a tune on a horn, which somehow moves God's intentions from judgment to mercy. No, it's tshuva. We do tshuva early. We don't wait for Rosh Hashanah to do tshuva. We start saying slichos. Start saying slichos early. Because we don't wait for it to come to us. We go to it prepared and already having performed the mitzvah that needs to be performed. We bring it with us when we come to Rosh Hashanah. This is Isserus de Lasata. Yom Kippur is the upshot of Rosh Hashanah. We say slichus the whole days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Many had the custom to fast during those days. The same is true with Sukkot, because the Sukkot is really the upshot, and you build the Sukkah beforehand, and you purchase the lulav and esrog beforehand. All of this requires preparation. And Hanukkah is so different from Purim. Hanukkah, there was a threat to what? A threat to the base of Mikdash. A threat to our performing mitzvahs. What did we do? We started a war. There was no miracle that kicked it off, we said we cannot take this, and we're not putting up with it, and we started a war. That was our action. So Rosh Hashanah through Hanukkah is where we took the initiative, and on the Pesach, Purim, Pesach, and Shavuos is where Kodesh Baruch Hu takes the initiative. As we said, it's the format which is the more full. Okay, yeah.
If it's true that us taking the initiative is superior to Hashem taking the initiative, then how come Shabbos is afforded a higher holiday where Hashem takes all of the initiative?
It was given to us.
I said that you're taking initiative for an interaction with him. The word Moed really applies to the holidays. Even though in Emor you do have the word Moed, and the first thing that's mentioned there is Shabbos, Chazal already says Shabbos doesn't belong there. Shabbos doesn't belong there because in that respect it's not really a Moed in that sense. The holidays require you to go to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. I've said something different in the name of Tzadik, but I'm not using it right now. The word Moed means meeting, means connection. And the three pilgrimage festivals, you go to Yerushalayim. Rosh Hashanah, you blow the shofar. It says, if you are Lifnai Liftim, you are in the Holy of Holies. And in Yom Kippur, it says, Lifnei Hashem Titaru, before Kodesh Baruch Hu should become pure. All of them are standing for Kodesh Baruch Hu in ways that Shabbos is not. Chazal ask, what is Shabbos doing there? Because it's not really a Moed. So it says to teach you that about Chol Moed, it's a whole special thing over there. At any rate, I left one thing out, which I have now. Good, I still have 10 minutes. I want to finish with that. We said that the holidays have special mitzvahs to give them their character, but there are two exceptions. What are the two exceptions? Shavuos has no special mitzvah for the Yachid. There's a certain thing you do in the Beis HaMikdash, but there's nothing for the individual to do. Nothing. Zero. Just Shvisas Malacha. And also, Shmini Atzeres. Shmini Atzeres, there's no sukkah, no lulav, just don't do malacha. So the Arizal talks about this. What's the idea of Atzeres? Shmini Atzeres, the 8th day of Sukkot. Someday when you feel the words, when you taste the words, the 8th day of Sukkot are crazy. What? Sukkot is 7 days, excuse me! It's only 7 days. What do you mean 8th day of Sukkot? And the Torah Kedosha pushes you into this, because it says, there's Shivas Yomim for Sukkot, Ubayom Hashmini, and the alert reader says, what? What do you mean Shmini? There is no Shmini. There's 7 days and then something else. There's 8 days of a unit. But there is. And Shavuos in rabbinic literature is called Atzeres. Atzeres. Now the word Atzeres you know very well from riding buses in this country. Because when you press the button, a sign lights up. What does it say on the sign? Atzor. Atzor means to stop. You're going. No! Stop going! Stop! Halt! Something's going and you stop it. Says the Arizal, when you do these mitzvahs, you create a certain kedusha, a certain holiness for yourself by doing these mitzvahs. What's going to happen to that? It only has your stamp on it. Your stamp is only human. As far as this life is concerned, you're transient. You're going to die. We're all going to die. So what's going to happen to that kedusha? The answer is that if it's only your product, it's going to disappear. So you invite the Kodesh Baruch Hu to put a stamp on it and make it permanent. To make it an atzor, that it shouldn't disappear. The rhythm of spirituality is creativity, and then handing what you've created over to a Kodesh Baruch Hu and saying, you put the stamp on it, you make it permanent. The Shem Shmuel brings two unbelievable riots to this. You go to the temple on anytime actually, and bring a korban. Don't go home the same day. Stay overnight. Lina. Go home the next day. Why? Because when you stay there the night and you go to sleep, your going to sleep is the passive handing over to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. I came here, I had an aliyah, something new appeared on my spiritual horizon, but I can't make it permanent. I'm giving it over to you to make it permanent. And he brings another raya. You probably know that when Yaakov Avinu left home, he was sent to go to Haran to get married, but he spent 14 years in the yeshiva of Shem Ve'ever. Chazal tell us during those 14 years, he didn't sleep. When he was by Lavan, Harosha, for 20 years, Vatita Shnasi Me'enai, I was guarding the sheep in the daytime and the nighttime, and he didn't sleep. Oh, but in between, on the road, that's when he slept and he had the dream of the ladder and the Kodesh Baruch Hu speaking to him, right? So now here comes the Jewish question. 14 years in yeshiva, no sleeping. 20 years by Lavan, no sleeping. In between, one night, didn't have enough review from his 14 years in yeshiva, couldn't stay up all night learning. No. Whatever he created the 14 years in yeshiva has to be given over by going to sleep. By going to sleep and saying, this is what I created, you make it permanent. I can't do that. It's just like staying overnight in Yerushalayim after coming up to the Beis HaMikdash. So that's the rhythm. That's the rhythm of spiritual creativity. So the first day of Pesach, Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us that injection. With that injection, we can do the mitzvahs, including counting the 49 days to Shavuos. Shavuos is an Azeris. It means that's the time when you give it over to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. There's no mitzvah for the average Jew to do. Nothing. Just passive. Don't do malacha. But there's nothing creative to do. Sukkot is the same. There's a medrash that says that Shvini Azeris should have been 50 days after the beginning of Sukkot, just like Shavuos is 50 days after the beginning of Pesach. It should have been a beginning, 7 days, and then to 50. Mm-hmm. Why not? So I don't know how official this is, but one is, if it were really in the middle of the winter, you'd have to come up to the Beis HaMikdash, and coming up during the muddy season is very difficult. So the Torah didn't do that. The Torah said, but that's what it is. It's an Azeris of the 7 days of Sukkot. 7 days you lived in the Sukkah, and you took the Lulav and Esrog, and then there has to be a day without a mitzvah to give it over. So they'll be able to, Kodesh Baruch Hu can make it permanent. That's why then you have really two equal axes. You have Pesach to Shavuos, and you have Sukkot to Shmini Atzeres, and it's the active, and then giving it over. This is really what the Arizal is saying. So this is the metaphysics of spirituality. It's how spirituality is done, how it's created, and how it's made permanent. Now, all of this is Hasidic thinking, some of which is directly in the Hasidic, some of which is in the Arizal, but that's what you see in the Arizal, which the Hasidic movement used to explain to you what's going on. These are mitzvahs that you do. You know this. It's based on psukim that you know. But what's going on? The Hasidic movement gave you a kind of philosophical basis to understand, and it's the ruchnius, it's the spirituality that you yourself perform. All of that is built in. So, there was one other thing. Yeah. So now we count the 49 days from Pesach to Shavuos, and that's because we were in the 49 gates of Tumah. There are only 50 Sachakol. And we were already in the 49, and this is what the Malachim were complaining about. You're killing these and saving those. Look at them! look at them. They're 49 times defiled. Because Baruch Hu said, they're my children. They're the children of Avraham and Yaakov. I promised them that there would be a Yitzhak. I'm going to inject them with the ability, free of charge, on the first day of Pesach. With that injection, they can do the mitzvahs of the Cedar. And with that injection, they can count the 49 days. Each day, they climb out of one of the gates of Tumah. And by the way, the present boss of the Rabbi of Yerushalayim made an observation here, which I think is very, very important. When you talk about Tumah, you're talking about a structure. Tumah is the bottom. And then there's Tahara, purity, which is middle. And then there's Kedusha, holiness, which is above. Strictly speaking, stepping out of Tumah just brings you to Tahara. Just brings you to Tahara. But that's not what happened to the Jewish people. They're preparing themselves for receiving the Torah at Sinai. That requires Kedusha. So it means in the 49 days, each day has a double step. From Tumah to Tahara, and from Tahara to Kedusha. And if you look at the paragraph that you say before you count the Omer, it's not a bad idea to say the paragraph, even if you're not Chassidic, and even if you're not lucky enough to be a Sephardi. It's printed in the Cedar. Nothing will go wrong if you say it. You'll see very clearly what it says, the paragraph you say after the counting, that you're going from Tumah to Tahara and then to Kedusha. It's quite clear. Kachenu, it says at the end. So you have to understand that those 49 days have a double effect. From Tumah to Tahara and from Tahara to Kedusha. Because Baruch Hu says, on the first night, I give it to you. I give you the whole thing. I enable you to do the Korban Pesach. The Korban Pesach enables you to eat the matzah and the moror. All of that's coming from me. That's the Isus of the Leila. That's why it's a Shabbos Dikei Yom Tov. And then you carry it out for the 49 days you give to the Shavuos.
Wait, and then the 50th day is the seal?
That's right. That's the seal where there's no mitzvah to do at all.
Okay, so there's like a 3-part cycle here. There's the initial gift from Hashem, there's the effort on behalf of human people, and then there's the seal.
That's right.
Okay?
That's
right. And that's played out in the trajectory of the Moed.
Of this Moed,
okay.
Because only Pesach is a Shabbos Dikei Moed.
Okay. Yesterday, when you were explaining decision-making processes, you explained it in a very similar way, and I'm wondering if there are similarities, because our existence is initial gift, and then you said the decision is the human effort, but ultimately the outcome is the seal.
I think that's right. I think that's good. I remember when I appreciated some of these ideas. I talked to my Rebbe Zatzal about Isus Dal Sata, the initiation coming from us, and he said it's true, but mi hikti mani va'ashalim yomar Omar Kadosh, who came before me that I should pay him because he really gave to me. And that was the way in which in the Sforim it's said, even when it's what I hinted at before, that even when it's Isus Dal Sata, but it's not purely Dal Sata, not something which you could do on your own. If you didn't have some kind of input from a Kodesh Baruch Hu, you wouldn't be able to do the initiation from below. And even though there's Bnei Yissaschar who says not like that, Bnei Yissaschar is very surprising, almost shocking. Another Chassidus Sefer, he says, I'm going to end with this, just to show you how challenging ideas can be sometimes. He says the creation of the world is this Serusa de la Sata, initiation from below. Say, wow, Rabbi, that's really tough. Creation of the world? Well, there's a medrash. The medrash, it says that when Kodesh Baruch Hu created the world, Tzofa ma'asehem shel tzadikim u'bara alma. He anticipated, saw in the future the actions of the tzadikim, and he created the world. Okay? So the Bnei Yissaschar says, that means that when a tzadik does a mitzvah, he's retroactively the mafreya creating the world.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said when I read that. Wow, right? Others don't agree with that, right? The Tzadik doesn't agree with that, and others don't agree with that, but that shows you how far the thought process can go. And when Tzadik does a mitzvah, since the Kodesh Baruch Hu took that into account when he created the world, he's retroactively, the Mafrei is creating the world. Okay, there's just a little hint as to what, and for those who are the aficionados, I talked now for a whole hour about Chassidus, right? I didn't mention anything about Chabad. Don't think that Chabad owns Chassidus. Chabad is one of the great Hasidic movements, and they contributed things which nobody else contributed, but they don't own the movement. There's a lot of Chassidus is not Chabad. Now, I'm not saying anything about bad about Chabad, but some people think that Chassidus and Chabad are synonymous. It's not true. They are a Hasidic movement. Okay.